Police in New York City are releasing images showing the face of a man who they believe shot and killed the CEO of United Healthcare yesterday.
Investigators are analyzing the suspected killer's movements before and after the attack, looking for a way to identify him. The killer was dressed in black and wore a face mask and left a chilling message on the casings of the bullets he fired. NBC's Stephen Romo has more.
Yeah, hey there. New York City police continuing that manhunt today and hoping for more leads. It's been more than a day now since United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was gunned down just here on the street behind me in the busy Midtown Manhattan. The shell casings left behind at the scene, we've learned overnight, deny, defend, and depose. Those words written on the shell casings, that according to law enforcement officials who were briefed on the investigation. Now that could be a major clue, but it's not clear right now exactly what that means. Police are also looking into a cell phone that was recovered along the route they believe that the suspect took off on after the shooting happened. Meanwhile, Thompson's wife is telling NBC News she was aware of threats made to her husband. She did not have many specifics about what exactly those threats were. The NYPD telling NBC News, though, that they do not believe he had a security detail with him while he was here in New York. Stephen Romo, NBC News. Now back to you.
The words on the ammunition may have been a reference to tactics that insurance companies use to avoid paying claims.
Peninsula Coast, Mendocino County Coast, San Francisco County, as I mentioned just before that. Right now, you heard Bill Martin just a moment ago describing what the possibilities are and where this earthquake struck and what that could mean for our area. He says that right now there is a possibility, of course, that water could come through the pathway of the Golden Gate Bridge, the entry there. But at this point, he says it's still early. This is not to the magnitude where you normally see that type of stuff. He mentioned perhaps something over a 9 would be something where you'd see something like that happen. But as the information continues to come in here about what exactly is happening, we also want to update you on public transportation. That is because BART had halted service on its lines because of the tsunami warning specifically. And we do know during earthquakes, they will often pause service along the rails when an earthquake strikes, when their system detects that is happening. But right now, as far as the tsunami warning is concerned at BART, they have halted all service. We're not sure when that's going to pick back up yet, but that is something we're trying to get more information about for you right now. SF Fire just sent out an update. Because of the earthquake, it says, watch out for broken glass and fallen items, seek shelter, and be prepared for more shaking from aftershocks. And check in with family just to make sure everything is all right. I'll read you the latest emergency alert here from the National Weather Service. National Weather Service issuing a tsunami warning. A series of powerful waves and strong currents may impact the coast near you. So it's something to be aware of right now as we continue to learn just how impactful this would be. But if you're along the coastline, anywhere in the Bay Area right now, along the Bay waters as well, you should definitely be alert about what exactly is happening here from the tsunami warning. And we are waiting to see what exactly will transpire ahead of time as we wait for more information to come in from the USGS and from the National Weather Service. You're looking at a map of where the earthquake struck up in Humboldt County and the severity and the intensity stretching inwards on outwards here. We spoke to the mayor of Eureka just a short time ago, who says they are going back to business as usual, but they are evacuating certain structures that could be affected by an earthquake, but where she works during her day job at school, they're going back to classes at the moment, and so we'll see what happens next here as this information continues to come in. Let me see what else is happening here. So the tsunami warning, of course, I said is in effect for coastal areas in California, but it's also affecting Oregon from Davenport, California, 10 miles northwest of Santa Cruz to Douglas Lane, Oregon. 10 miles southwest of Florence. So both California, Oregon are definitely being affected by what is happening here. And we also had reports of multiple earthquakes that struck, the strongest, of course, being in Humboldt County. And we're trying to figure out now. Bill thought he saw a report of perhaps some shaking happening in the Sonoma County area. We're working to get some confirmation on that at the moment to make sure that that is indeed what happened here. And we continue to wait for more information from the U.S. Geological Survey that is gathering more information about exactly what is happening here. But I can tell you that the other quake that they are noting here is the one in Petrolia, California. That was a 6.6 earthquake. And we're waiting to see if they update those numbers as time goes on here.
Canada's Immigration Minister Mark Miller has unveiled sweeping changes to the country's immigration system, which will drastically reduce the number of foreign nationals permitted to stay. In this video, we'll break down the newly announced changes to Canada's immigration policies, which could force millions, including many Indians, to leave the country. We'll explore how these changes will impact workers, students, and temporary permit holders, particularly engineers, technicians, and others hoping to stay in Canada. Canada has unveiled sweeping changes to the country's immigration system, which will drastically reduce the number of foreign nationals permitted to stay. By 2025, nearly 5 million temporary permits will expire, with many permit holders, especially engineers, technicians, and students from India, facing the possibility of being forced to leave the country. The Trudeau government has made these changes in response to rising concerns over Canada's housing, healthcare, and infrastructure challenges. With a goal to better manage the country's population growth and address resource strain, the government has decided to reduce both permanent and temporary residency targets. The annual target for new permanent residents will drop by 21% from 500,000 to 395,000. These shifts are far-reaching. Permanent residency. The target for permanent residents will decrease, affecting many people hoping to settle long-term in Canada. Temporary foreign workers. There will be a 40% reduction in the number of temporary foreign workers allowed, impacting thousands, especially in high-skilled sectors like engineering and technology. International students. While still a significant number, the intake of international students will also be reduced by 10%. Indians make up a large portion of Canada's foreign workforce, with over 1.6 million people from India currently living in the country. Many of these workers are in key sectors such as technology, engineering, and healthcare. With the new cuts in temporary foreign worker permits, many could struggle to extend or renew their stay, while others may find themselves unable to transition to permanent residency. The new immigration policy could lead to significant changes for those holding temporary permits, such as work and study permits. Around 766,000 study permits will expire by December 2025, potentially impacting students who have yet to finalize their plans for permanent residency or work visas. With these changes, Canada's immigrant workforce, including many highly skilled professionals, faces a period of uncertainty.
US President Joe Biden's three-day trip to Angola, which culminated on Wednesday, marked his first visit to Africa in office. Biden met with Angolan President João Lourenço, who since taking office 7 years ago has pushed to bolster relations with the US. The visit sought to underline US investment in the region. The Biden administration has invested billions in Angola, working to counter China's growing influence in the region. Travelling to the coastal city of Lobito, Biden pledged a further $600 million towards the Lobito corridor. The project seeks to revitalise supply chains by refurbishing 1,300 kilometres of train lines connecting Angola to the mineral-rich areas of Congo and Zambia in Central Africa. Joe Biden will hand over power to US President-elect Donald Trump in January. Trump is alleged to have made disparaging comments about African nations in the past. However, the responsibility of seeing through projects like the Lobito Corridor will soon be his.
Nepal and China have signed a framework agreement on the Belt and Road Initiative, paving the way for an enhanced economic cooperation between the two countries. The agreement was inked during Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's official visit to China, and which marked his first official visit to the country after assuming office for the fourth time. Now, the BRI framework agreement was inked by Nepal's Foreign Secretary Amrit Bahadur Rai and Liu Suche of the National Development and Reform Commission of China. The agreement outlines the terms of cooperation between Nepal and China on BRI projects, including roads, transport corridors, airports and rail lines. Although Nepal and China initially agreed to join the BRI in 2017, progress was stalled due to the lack of a formal execution framework and the political disagreements. Now, Prime Minister Oli expressed his optimism about the agreement, stating that it will further deepen bilateral relations between Nepal and China. He also invited Chinese investors to invest in Nepal, emphasizing the country's favorable investment climate and commitment to providing investment security. Now, according to reports, the agreement has sparked debate in Nepal, with some factions expressing concerns over the risks posed by Chinese-funded projects. However, Foreign Minister Arzu Rana Deuba says that he believes Prime Minister Oli's visit has elevated Nepal and China relations to new heights. Notably, Prime Minister Oli's 4-day visit to China has sparked interest, as it deviates from the traditional protocol of Nepalese leaders visiting India first after taking charge. Now, this shift in approach may indicate a strategic reorientation of Nepal's foreign policy, with Oli seeking to strengthen ties with China and diversifying the country's diplomatic relations. And for the latest on this, our correspondent Saloni Murarka has sent us a report from Kathmandu. Listen in.
Nepal and China have signed the executive framework for the Belt and Road Initiative, signaling that Nepal might soon finalize the list of the projects to be implemented under the initiative that has failed to take off since 2017. This new draft that has been signed between the two countries has been drafted by the Nepalese side, emphasizing on grants over loans. However, during the course of discussion, Chinese replaced the term grant with the aid financing modalities, which gives an option for both loans and grants that depends as per the projects that will be decided between the two countries. However, this term aid does introduce ambiguity, and which is against the Nepali Congress stance for only accepting grants. Nepali Congress is the key coalition partner of KP Sharma Oli's government, and it has made its stand very clear that it would only accept grants to implement the BRI projects. Now the Prime Minister has returned from China after concluding his official visit, and he's facing a potential political crisis in the country if Nepali Congress maintain their stance against loans. Saloni Murarka for WION.
Next up, let's take a look at what's happening in technology. Norwegian-based 1X has introduced its first humanoid robot named Neo. The Neo robot is capable of performing household chores such as laundry, cleaning and tidying. The robot's AI system enables it to handle tasks autonomously. It can also engage in conversations. And additionally, Neo can be remotely piloted, allowing users to interact with the robot from anywhere in the world. Still in the development phase though, the Neo robot will hit the market next year.
A group of experts have submitted an extensive 250-page report to the Spanish government calling for an overall ban on digital devices for young children. Experts have suggested no digital device exposure for kids under 3 and limited access for those under the age of 13. Moreover, the report also suggests putting a health warning on smartphones similar to the one found on cigarette packages. The report also suggests promoting dumb phones for kids aged 6 to 12. Dumb phones are basic mobile phones that do not support internet access. The committee has also urged medical practitioners to include questions about screen time among kids during their regular health checkups.
In a major cybersecurity breach, 16 million customer records of HDFC Life Insurance are being sold on the dark web. The leaked data includes sensitive information like customer names, policy numbers, mobile numbers, and health details. Cybersecurity organization CyberPeace said that some of the data has already been sold, raising concerns about the misuse of the stolen data. HDFC Life has confirmed the incident and has said that they are investigating. This follows a similar incident involving Star Health Insurance, where 7.24 terabytes of data got leaked just last month.
All right, a mysterious illness has surfaced in the Central African country of Congo. The flu-like ailment that has killed dozens of people over a span of 2 weeks and is now being probed in southwestern Congo. The deaths were reported in the Panzi health zone of the Kwango province. Well, symptoms of this mysterious illness that has claimed over 140 lives in southwest Congo include fever, headache, cough. The provincial health minister has advised the population to exercise caution and refrain from contact with dead bodies to avoid contamination. The minister has also called on national and international partners to send medical supplies to deal with the health crisis. The illness is reported at a time when Congo is already plagued by the Mpox epidemic. The Central African country is already dealing with over 47,000 suspected cases and over 1,000 suspected deaths from the disease.
Sierra Leone on Thursday began a nationwide rollout of the single-dose Ebola vaccine. The campaign is the first in West Africa where a deadly outbreak 10 years ago resulted in the deaths of thousands. The outbreak in 2014 affected Sierra Leone the most, with nearly 4,000 deaths.
We are targeting healthcare workers and frontline workers like the police, the military officer, and traditional healers. Yeah, we are dealing with the Ebola vaccine on the preventive side because if one person is affected, every other person will be affected.
The campaign, implemented by the government in partnership with the Global Vaccine Alliance, Gavi, the World Health Organization and UNICEF, targets 20,000 frontline workers across the country. A long time ago, we had Ebola in this country. We saw the kind of destruction it caused. In some villages, to this day, it's hard to see people. That's because of Ebola. It destroyed whole villages.
It destroyed the one whole village.
The outbreak in 2014 saw up to 28,000 cases, having started in Guinea before spreading across borders to Sierra Leone and Liberia.
সিরিয়ায় আবারও মাথাচাড়া দিয়ে উঠেছে বিদ্রোহীরা। দখল করে নিচ্ছে একের পর এক শহর। দেশটিতে রুশ ও মার্কিন বাহিনীর উপস্থিতি রয়েছে। এরপরও হঠাৎ বিদ্রোহীদের এমন অগ্রগতির কোনো কারণ আপাতত চোখে পড়ছে না। এমত অবস্থায় বড়সড় ঘোষণা দিয়েছেন ইরানের পররাষ্ট্রমন্ত্রী আব্বাস আরাকচি। বলেছেন, দামেস্ক চাইলে সিরিয়ায় সেনা পাঠানোর বিষয়টি বিবেচনা করবে ইরান। উত্তরাঞ্চলীয় সিরিয়ার গুরুত্বপূর্ণ এবং দেশটির দ্বিতীয় বৃহত্তম শহর আলেপ্পো দখল করে নিয়েছে বিদ্রোহীরা। এ ঘটনার পর নড়েচড়ে বসেছে সব পক্ষ। সিরিয়ার সরকারি বাহিনী ছাড়াও এখন আগ্রাসী ভূমিকায় নেমেছে রুশ বাহিনীও। এরই মধ্যে আরবি ভাষার একটি টেলিভিশন চ্যানেলকে আরাকচি বলেন, সিরিয়ার সরকার সেনা পাঠানোর অনুরোধ করলে আমরা তা ভেবে দেখব।
এলো ভিশন মুশকিল আসান অফার। যে কোনো ব্র্যান্ডের পুরনো ফ্রিজ নিয়ে চলে আসুন ভিশন শোরুমে আর নিয়ে যান নতুন ভিশন ফ্রিজ 20% পর্যন্ত ছাড়।
ইরানের পররাষ্ট্রমন্ত্রী সতর্ক করে দিয়ে বলেছেন, সিরিয়ার এই সন্ত্রাসী গ্রুপ ইরানের চেয়ে দামেস্কের প্রতিবেশী দেশগুলোর জন্য বেশি ক্ষতির কারণ হতে পারে। ইরাক, জর্ডান ও তুরস্কের মতো দেশ সিরিয়ার এই ঘটনায় বেশি ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত হবে। সন্ত্রাসবাদ ছড়িয়ে পড়লে সিরিয়ার সীমান্তবর্তী এই তিন দেশই হুমকির মুখে পড়বে বলে দাবি করেছেন আরাকচি। গেল সপ্তাহে আলেপ্পো দখল করে নেওয়ার পর বিদ্রোহীরা এখন হামা ও ইদলিবের দিকে অগ্রসর হচ্ছে।
As Syrian rebels made rapid gains against Damascus forces, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Arakchi held talks Monday with his Turkish counterpart Hakan Fidan. Turkey, a backer of the Syrian rebels, has been calling for dialogue with Damascus, and Fidan has said those talks would now need to include the Syrian opposition. But the latest upsurge in fighting in Syria underscores differences between Ankara and Tehran.
Iran administration is putting most of its efforts to have some more leverage over Assad regime, and they are very cautious and resistant against a possible Turkey-Assad dialogue. Iran is maybe not an enemy of Turkey, but it isn't behaving in a friendly way towards Turkey.
Moscow, like Tehran, has much to lose in Syria. Russia is a vital military backer of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who has granted Russia's navy use of a key Syrian base.
Moscow and Iran, for them, it's of crucial importance that the personality of Assad remains in power. Russia would definitely use its military forces, its aerospace forces that can cause huge number of casualties among the Syrian civilians, what means a new wave of migrants.
More than 1 million Syrian refugees are camped just across the Turkish border in the rebel-controlled Idlib province in Syria. Turkey already hosts more than 4 million refugees, and analysts say any Russian assault that triggers a new exodus would trigger a response from Ankara.
There is a line that Turkey will not remain as it is. I mean, if there is a development directly threatening interests or security of Turkey, Turkey will intervene.
Despite backing rival sides in the Syrian civil war, Turkey and Russia have succeeded in managing those differences, and their leaders have maintained a close relationship. The two discussed Syria in a phone call Tuesday. Analysts say both consider their relationship too important to lose over Syria.
Not to that extent that Moscow would jeopardize its cooperation with Turkey, which is of paramount importance for Russian policy towards the world. Moscow and Ankara would demonstrate political pragmatism and try to solve the differences in views through negotiations with each other.
Under the so-called Astana process, Russia, Turkey and Iran have collaborated on Syria in the past. Analysts say the Astana process could be revived if all sides are interested in pursuing a diplomatic solution to the drawn-out conflict in Syria. Dorian Jones, VOA News, Istanbul.
The Syrian government is locked in some pretty intense fighting with the rebels despite their efforts to block the advance by the rebels. The rebels have now seized Hama, and our next port gets more details.
In their lightning offensive, rebel forces have already captured large areas of the territory besides the second largest city, Aleppo. By late Wednesday, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitor said that government troops were engaged in fierce resistance and were trying to stop the rebels from advancing. The observatory says 704 people, mostly combatants, and 110 civilians have already been killed since the violence erupted last week. This marks the most intense fighting in Syria since the ceasefire in 2020, after years of civil war ravaged the country. Meanwhile, the rebels have claimed victory in the city of Tel Rifat. Armed fighters stood by abandoned military tanks and patrolled the streets as hundreds of jubilant locals began to return home.
The city of Tel Rifat and its surroundings were completely liberated, and a number of tanks and helicopters were captured. We captured a number of prisoners of war from Assad's group, but we are waiting for the area to be cleared of mines so that our civilian brothers can return to their homes.
While one city saw civilians returning, many have been fleeing from another. Several people have been displaced in the Aleppo region following the latest escalation. According to the United Nations, over 115,000 people are displaced after the rebels' offensive in the north. Meanwhile, doctors and paramedics in Aleppo say that they are suffering from a severe shortage of personnel and medical supplies. The Aleppo University Hospital, damaged by bombing over the past week, is still working to only provide first aid services.
Hospitals are often put out of service. There is a lack of staff and equipment. All hospitals are out of service due to the bombing of hospitals.
Residents of Aleppo are facing a severe crisis of their own due to shortage of essentials after the city fell to rebel forces. Since then, the situation has only deteriorated. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.